Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our monthly Ninja Skill Booster. Today, we're talking about stress and a really important topic, one that's very dear to my heart. And I'm going to get a little bit deep into some of the physiology today and also help you to think about some strategies you might employ to turn some of that fear and anxiety into curiosity, how we can leverage that to help us to be more productive, but to also get a much better sense of well-being and mindfulness, knowing where we are right now, knowing where we are in the day, and how that's going to affect our productivity and our well-being. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the lands on which we come from today. We are in the chat box. I can see we are from all over the country, including New Zealand, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. I would like to acknowledge the elders past, present, and emerging, and thank them for their care of the lands and the oceans, the waterways that they manage on our behalf and take really good care of. And to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders we have with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get into this topic. It is a rapid 30 minutes, so it doesn't take a huge amount of time out of your day, but it can be really powerful to just spend some time reflecting and getting into some of these topics. For those that haven't met me before, my name is Julie. I am a ninja here at Think Productive. Please grab a screenshot if you'd like to keep in touch. We love chatting about this stuff, and we're always here to help everyone in our ninja community. Our mission as an organization is to help everyone love Mondays. And I know that that may sound a bit weird for those that haven't heard that before, but we believe it's really possible. And certainly today's topic really focuses in here. We need to think about how do we come to work every day feeling really great about that when it's not always that easy and when there's a lot of stress around and anxiety. We're going to talk about that in great detail today. Here's my very brief agenda. We're going to talk about stress and how it affects us. We'll talk about taming the lizard brain. This is a very important physiological part of response that our body has to stress that we'll talk about in quite a bit of detail. And I'm going to give you some tips and tools on what we believe are the best strategies to help combat some of that stress and anxiety. Globally, I want to start by just putting this in context. Globally, we are not thriving as human beings in the workspace, and stress is increasing. Here are some really, startling stats from the latest Gallup survey, 2025. And this is the global position. So globally, you can see here thriving kind of was going up a little bit back in 2009. If you look from 2009 right through until 2024, you can see it going up a little and then coming down. Post-COVID, we saw COVID, people's well-being, thriving started to go up a little bit, which was interesting in the remote working space. And then it started to tail off again. I want you to contrast that though with the Australian-New Zealand position. So this is stats of combined Australia-New Zealand. We started from a higher place. Our sense of thriving was much higher back in, they started recording this one in 2011 for Australia-New Zealand. It's coming down significantly. Still higher than the global number, but really declining quite sharply there year on year. So we're not thriving. We've done a lot of work. If you think about if you are people managers, leaders, if you are in the HR, learning and development space, we've done so much work on engagement and building, connection at work and looking at psychological safety, and we're still seeing thriving going down. What is even more alarming is that the daily stress, so the question that was asked of everyone in this survey, and it is a very big survey, did you experience the following feelings a lot of the day yesterday? How about stress? So this was a specific question about stress. And you can see that regionally, which means Australia and New Zealand, this is the chart just for Australia and New Zealand, half of us, 49% of people experienced stress a lot of the day yesterday. I'm just going to let you think on that one. The global number there is 40, quite significantly lower. So you can see that for everyone in Australia and New Zealand, we should be considering this and how it impacts our work, our life, our well-being, our psychological safety. If we are feeling stressed, we're not feeling like we're thriving, it's really hard to show up and be productive. Yeah. And of course, productivity is just one measure, or should be just one measure, of whether or not we have a thriving organization and that we're doing really well. There is just so much to juggle. This is one of the things that causes so much stress for us. And, we talk about the speeding clock. We talk about how fast the year is going. I don't know about you guys, but I can't believe it's September next week. Yeah, the year just seems to be going faster and faster and faster. And we're thinking through our weeks, that we are trying to achieve lots and we're trying to get through things. And often it feels like we're just spinning plates or spinning the wheels, that we're not making a lot of progress. So I want to dig in a little deeper into the actual physiology of stress today. Some of this work comes from one of our new workshops, Thriving Teams in Tricky Times, whatever you would like to call this workshop. It is a great deep dive into things like trust, psychological safety, clarity. It's a workshop that really helps us to understand how this fear response, the stress response, comes about and how we can help ourselves to stress less and figure out how to get back in a happier zone. Some of the content in the workshop I just wanted to share with you. This comes from one of our ninjas, Grace Marshall in the UK. She wrote this brilliant book called Struggle. And she talks about how we can turn fear into curiosity. I'm going to dig into this in a bit more detail for you today. She talks about, fear says when we're in this stress response, the heightened state of fear says, danger, don't go there. This is the runaway response. And often, in the workspace, we can't run away. We generally can't. Yeah, we can't just say, excuse me, I'm out of here. So this is a really important thing to think about, is what do we do when fear is taking hold of us, when it takes a grip on our physiology, on our body, as well as our brain? Yeah. One of the things that we can do is to show up with a little bit more curiosity. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do in the session today, is to get curious. Curiosity says, that's interesting. Let's take a closer look. So when we're getting really mindful and we notice that we're having some sort of stress response, we're having a reaction to what's being said in the room or what's happening around us, if we can notice that and become a little bit more mindful, we can start to employ the curiosity rather than the fear to help us understand it and move past it. I'm going to tell a little bit of a personal story here. For those that know me, you may have heard me tell this story in our workshops. When we talk about mindfulness as ninjas, we really are talking about being aware of where we're at in the day, in the state. You may think of mindfulness as, yoga, meditation, that kind of stuff. Absolutely. It's all part of this, being aware of where our physical body is in the space and understanding how we're doing. Back in 2009, I was working in a very high stress role, lots of hours a week. I was in fast moving consumer goods. It was very fast paced, quite senior strategic kind of marketing role. And I wasn't noticing what was going on in my body at all. I kept getting headaches thinking, wow, this is a bit crazy. Don't know what's going on here. I'll go to the chiro. John cracked me back in. I'll be fine. And John said, something not right about your headaches. You need to go get those checked. Okay, John, I'll go get checked. Go to the doctor, go off and have some tests. And turned out I had a brain tumor. Go figure, huh? What was really pertinent about this story is that I had not noticed how my body was reacting, whether I was feeling physically well. I was just go, go, go. I was just managing stress, managing all of the things in life by just keeping going. Yeah. And I tell this story because it's a really important one to think about. What do we do when we're in that stress response? If we are just making do, if we are just getting by, then it can be really detrimental to our health and our well-being. And I'm not saying that everybody is going to go down the path I went down, but this really shook me. This was the point of, what do I do next from here? How do I change this? And unfortunately, at that stage, I didn't learn my lesson. I had surgery. I was very lucky. It was benign. Had the surgery. 6 weeks later, I went straight back to doing what I'd always done. I just continued to just do everything that I needed to do. Very A-type personality. And fast forward quite a few years later, 2017, I got cancer again. I got sick again. And this was the moment when I actually did sit up and take notice and say, hey, hold on a minute. I'm young, fit, healthy. This shouldn't be happening. What is going on for me? And I noticed that I wasn't mindfully aware of where I was in my body. I wasn't mindfully aware of what was happening around me other than just being in the zone, in that productive moment. And I tell this story because it's really important for us to go, hey, what is going on for me personally? What is going on for those around me? What is going on for my team? How can I help them to figure out a better way? Yeah. And just continuing to be driven by fear, by what we call the lizard brain, is really dangerous for us because it keeps us in this heightened state of anxiety. The other really important thing to think about is when we're in this lizard brain response, it switches off our prefrontal cortex. We're not going to be doing our best work. We're not going to be thinking really clearly if we are being driven by this little tiny lizard brain that is really very controlling. Let's get into this in a bit more detail and understand it. Once we get curious about these things, once we dig in, this is where the curiosity comes from, we can understand a little bit more about how to control it and how to make sure that we are noticing it. Okay. Most importantly, noticing. Noticing is kind of the first step. This is where that little lizard brain sits, the amygdala. Yeah, you may have heard of it. It's a little tiny, about almond-sized little spot in your brain, or little device. Call it a device. Maybe call it a device. Yeah, that would be good. It's a really small part of our brain, but it has major impacts. You'll know it from things like the fight or flight response that we talk about. This idea of back to caveman days when we needed to make sure that we were safe, we were part of the tribe. The amygdala did quite a few different things for us back in those days. Okay, it helped us to stay part of the tribe. It meant that we helped support each other. So we tend to say yes. That's one of the responses that the lizard brain orchestrates for us. We tend to say yes to everything to stay part of the tribe. If I say no, if I'm ruthless and I say no, if I manage my time better and I say, sorry, can't do that today, then that puts us in a little bit of a fearful state. It can actually make our amygdala go firing off. So we have to practice that. That's something that we teach in our workshops. We have to practice saying no in a way that's obviously very kind. But this is some of the physiological responses that will happen because of our biology. The other part of the lizard brain that does fire off is this idea of keeping us safe. So when there's a dangerous situation and our brain is always on alert, the amygdala is on high alert looking for things that could potentially endanger us. Okay, so we think of the fight-flight response. I'm going to go deeper into that today. This is from Grace Marshall's book. This is from Struggle. And Grace has termed this phrase, I love it, high-functioning fear. So Grace talks about, and you may have heard of this too, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, okay? You may have heard of those parts before, but the high-functioning part of this is that in the modern workplace, in life, we generally don't fight. Yeah, we don't, okay, that's it, we're going to fisticuff together. What happens is it can sort of show up in a different way. So the fight aspect of when the amygdala fires off and we've got the cortisol and the adrenaline running through our body, instead of it being, fighting, it could be that we work harder. I would love, as I'm going through these 4, just have a think about which of these responses you think you employ. Okay, what happens for you when you are in this stress response? Okay, and pop them in the chat box if any of these identify for you. I would love to know. Freeze and flight for you, Abby? Yes. Kristen, fight, freeze. Yes. Well, let me explain them a little more because you might have a different perspective as we go through them. So in high functioning fear, fight looks like we work harder. We press on. We might be more controlling. We might have an unwillingness to delegate. We might have perfectionism kicking in. Yeah, can't afford for anything to go wrong. I'm going to fix or rescue others because this is really important or this is really stressful. Yeah, and we may see everything as a problem and we might get quite defensive. I don't know whether any of that resonates for you. I can see lots of people going, fight, fight, fight. Yes. So whilst we think we may not be aggressive and we're not going to show up and argue about stuff, some of those high functioning fear behaviors mean that we might be doing this. I know for sure I do this a lot. I work harder. I push through. Yeah. I don't delegate. I just say, I've got to do it myself. I've got to fix everything. Yeah. This is really important to be aware of. You might also think about how your colleagues, your partner, your best team workmates, how they show up. You can see these behaviors in others. And it's a really great conversation to have with your team to say, hey, what happens for you when you get stressed? What happens? What shows up? Now, the flight response, you may think of the flight response as, getting out of there, running away. Yeah. But in the high functioning state, this is about avoidance. Yeah. We might be avoiding conflict. We might be avoiding the topic. We might be avoiding the work. We might be procrastinating. This is where you'll see procrastination start to show up. Yeah. We'll avoid doing the tasks or the conversations that are difficult. It might also look like disengagement. You might notice in your team, it might be, I'm disengaged, I'm not participating in that conversation. This could be a flight response. And it can also look like head down, stay safe, I'm busy, I'm just doing this. Yeah, we're protecting ourselves. This is what the flight response may look like. The freeze response is interesting. Does anyone think, I didn't see many with the freeze response. I'll explain this one in a bit more detail. So the freeze response in nature is I'll stand still or I'll play dead because then nothing's going to hurt me because they already think I'm gone. I'm just going to freeze. Yeah. The freeze might look like nothing is happening, but it might also look like real busyness. I'm so busy dealing with all this over here. I don't have time to deal with what's over there and scary and uncertain. Yeah. Rachel, you stop talking. Yeah. So once we identify these kind of responses, we can see that this is what happens. Yeah. Now, the fawn response is a really interesting one. Imagine an animal in the wild. It's showing up to a predator and it's saying, please don't eat me, I'll be your friend. Yeah. This is the people pleasing at the high functioning fear level. This is the people pleasing. This is being overly accommodating. Yeah. Everyone else's needs are more important than mine. It could also look like the fake yes, telling people what you think they want to hear. Yeah. This is really, yeah, and we fawn too. Yeah. When I explain it, you kind of go, oh yeah, I do some of that and some of that and some of that. Yes. This is really key, is understanding these responses and seeing them in others. Yes. And have all of them. Yes. Have all of them indeed. Once we start to slow down and notice this, it can be really powerful. So I'm really glad we got to share that today, just to show you what was happening there. Because once we know what's happening, rather than staying in the fear response, we can get curious. I talked to my young one when she had lots of anxiety growing up about curiosity. We used to play the Sherlock Holmes game. This idea of Sherlock was very much in that logical space, but he was very curious. He showed up a lot to actually talk about curiosity. Yeah, let's understand what's happening here. Then we can find ways to make things easier. Yeah, how to get through this response. So I'm realizing that we're taking a bit of time on this today. I've got 3 key things I want to share with you to help you with moving past the fear. The first one is breathe. Some of you may have heard me talk about this before. Being really mindful, coming back to what's happening for me today, noticing, pausing and saying, whoa, I've got stress in my body. My shoulders are up. I'm feeling really stressed. Yeah. I've got shallow breathing happening. I am not doing well today. I'm noticing it. I can't think clearly. All of those things happen in the immediate stress response. Breathing is your friend. Big diaphragmatic breaths. Take 3 with me now. This is really important. When we take our breathing from up here, when we are shallow breathing, when we are feeling quite stressed, we tend to shallow breathe, and we're up here in the top part of our lungs and we are using our sympathetic nervous system. When we push out our diaphragm and we take really big, deep breaths, really interesting things happen. Because when we're up here, when we're in the shallow breaths, our prefrontal cortex is switched off because the amygdala is on. When we take the big deep breaths, we turn the amygdala off and we turn the prefrontal cortex back on again. So we can start to think more clearly. So three big breaths in for 4. Some people call this box breathing. Out for 4, however it works best for you. Some people do the 4-8, 4-6. It can be different rhythms to the breathing that can help you, but the key is getting that diaphragm moving, changing the biology, changing the physiology to help us get control of the amygdala. I hope the breathing is happening for you. Just keep on doing that breathing as we talk this through. You'll find that you'll start to get some clarity. We're oxygenating our brain again, and we are starting to figure out that the breathing is helping us. Yeah, we're switching this back on so that we can be present. And this is all part of mindfulness. This is the key, is making sure that we've got mindfulness in mind as we go, making sure that we are aware of where we're at in the day. For me personally, I know that one of the only things I have as an alert on my phone for quite some time was at 10 and 2 during the day. This got me into the rhythm of thinking about mindfulness. Was I had an alert that said, how are you doing today? And it just caught my eye and went, oh, how am I doing today? And it got me to appreciate that mindful moment. I'm going to skip past that. One of the other big things that really helps when we are in the stress response, we often can't see it. And we are often we've got the busy brain, we've got so much going on, we've got lots of things racing around, and we are trying to remember so much, and we're juggling so much. So one of the key techniques we teach, and I know that some of you will know this, but I'm going to bring you back to it again, is doing your brain dump. Getting everything out of our head, get all that noise out, get it all onto paper, so that we can figure out what is there, and we can then do something with it. We can prioritize it. We can make sure we know what are the first things to do. So do a brain dump. If you would like a copy of this, just email us after the session. We can send you this little activity. Here it is here. That will allow you to it helps guide you getting everything out of your head. Yeah. So please make sure that you think about this. How can I get everything out of my head? Yeah. How can I make sure that I am seeing what's there, that I am controlling the stress, and I am able to function within it? Or I can stop it and then I can function better. Yeah. So the brain dump is a really great activity. You've been doing it for a while, Carmen. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I noticed a couple of hands are going up. I don't have time to stop for the hands right now, but I will open for questions at the end if that is okay with you guys. The last tip I have for you is to have some fun. Yeah. This is really key. We don't think of fun when we think of stress. We think of, oh, everything's terrifying. Yes. Have some fun. Take those moments out of the day to get away from the desk, to go for a walk, to do the things that you love. This is really key. That's me again, top left. Going underwater, grabbing my camera, doing some photography. Even if I can't get underwater, at the moment, the water conditions are terrible. So I'm doing above water photography. Yeah. Doing the things we love. I can go outside during my lunch break into the garden and take photos. Yeah. It's something I love. It helps me to become mindful and very focused, single focus, and it alleviates some of that stress. Find the things that you love. Please, 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 in the chat box, what do you do to manage stress? Tell me what you love. Tell me what you're building into your day, your week, to make sure that it's giving you some respite from this. This is not a nice to have. This is a lovely, beautiful thing to have in your day, every single day. Riding your crazy dog, walking the dogs. Sorry, riding your crazy horse. Thank you so much for sharing that, Linda. Horses, there's a few horses there. Horses and dogs, yes, beautiful. Motorbikes, getting outside, yes. Training your body, beautiful. Ocean swimming, wonderful. You all lead me, quite a lot of you lead me very nicely into this research about blue and green spaces. Spending our time outside in nature, spending our time near the ocean or in forests, those kind of things. You might have heard of things like forest bathing. This is an amazing way to reset that stress response. Yeah. Think about this. This is critical for us to build in every day. Even if we're city dwellers, if we live in the city, even having plants in our office, yeah, having a window box or being able to look out to a green space, it makes a difference. If you can build some time into those blue or green spaces into your day, say your day or your week, this will be a big reset for that stress response. Okay, I am going to wrap up this session. We are almost at the very end. I would love to know, though, I'm going to give you just a moment to pause and think about what I've shared today. I hope it's made you feel a little bit more curious about stress, because often we go, oh, I'm stressed, I'm going to avoid it. Please get curious. Please understand the physiology. Please understand how it feels in your body, and think about how you can manage that stress moving forward. I'd love to know, again, maybe pop it in the chat box. What's one thing that you will do for your well-being to manage your stress this week? I know it's Wednesday already, but what could you do this week? The 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. tip, Daniel? Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for joining, Daniel. Lovely to see you. Connect with friends. Yeah. Body strength breathing, brain dump, go for a hike and enjoy nature. Beautiful. Spend it in the ocean. Yes, Peter, I'm joining you. Have a proper lunch break, Melanie. Absolutely. Wonderful. Yes. Walking during your breaks, Siobhan. Yes. Beautiful. Walking on the beach, the park. Oh, look at all those beautiful things you're going to do. Write it down. Put it on your to-do list. Yeah. Do it now so that you don't forget. I don't mind if you have to jump into your to-do list and do it. Do it now. Yes, add it. Drink more water, Brooke. Yeah, all of these things help with managing our brains, our stress. All of that physiology comes to life when we take good care of it. So I hope that I've encouraged you to be a little bit more mindful today, to know your stress, to know what it is. And that high functioning fear stuff, I think, is really powerful when we go deeper, when we understand that as a brain and the kinds of responses that we personally have, and also those around us. I just very much encourage you to breathe, to clear your mind, and have fun. Okay, they're the three things. Breathe, clear your mind, and have fun. Really important. I hope that was a very fast kind of run through of stress. I hope that was useful for you. Just a quick bit of news so that you know what's coming up for us. If you need some help with productivity tips and tools, we have a Way of the Productivity Ninja workshop coming up, public workshop on the 8th of September. Please feel free to get in touch if you need to know more about that one, and we will get that to you. Our next Ninja Skill Booster is about delegation, and I love this one. This one is really about how to empower your team and reclaim your time so that you have more time to do the things that matter. And if you are interested, if you want some more Ninja Magic, our 6 Weeks to Ninja, our last one for this year, kicks off in October. So please get in touch if you would like to get more knowledge, more information about that one. Thank you so much, everyone. And I do have a very quick little giveaway. I'm going to stop the recording and I will just